Emmet Daniels is one of the brilliant minds at the center of the techno-thriller Daemon Protocol by J.L. Spears. His genius with algorithms and code will shape the future, for better or worse. This is his story. Hi, I'm Veronica Thames, one of the narrators of the Daemon Protocol audiobook. Daemon Protocol is also available in hardcover, paperback, or ebook, wherever fine books are sold. Join me as we learn a bit more about Emmet Daniels and the backstory that leads to the role he plays in Daemon Protocol. Emmet Daniels was never like the other kids in Fremont, California. While they played tag in the park or talked endlessly about the latest video games, Emmet was home, perfectly content with his nightly ritual of brushing his teeth for exactly 2 minutes, watching a specific episode of his favorite science show, and preparing his school bag for the next day. He lived like clockwork, precise, consistent, and utterly indifferent to the noise of childhood friendships. His parents, John and Margaret Daniels, were pillars of the Fremont community. John was the local pastor, a steadfast man of faith who believed every question could be answered with a prayer. Margaret, ever the organizer, was a PTA powerhouse. When Emmet came into their lives unexpectedly in their 40s, they struggled to connect with him. His odd behaviors, his inability to maintain eye contact, his tendency to correct others with blunt precision, his disinterest in anything they considered normal, confused and frustrated them. They tried punishing him when he didn't fit their mold of obedience. They prayed for him when punishment didn't work. Neither approach brought understanding. Emmet wasn't particularly bothered by their disapproval. He didn't understand it, but he also didn't dwell on it. The world's rules were like static to him, faint and unimportant. He preferred his own carefully constructed world of structure and predictability. The predictable was safe. It made sense in ways people never did. By high school, Emmet had become a curiosity in his small town. He was brilliant, with grades that left his teachers in awe. But he was also a mystery. He didn't talk to his classmates unless absolutely necessary, and he never participated in extracurricular activities. While others worried about prom and sports, Emmet was focused on optimizing his study habits and memorizing entire textbooks. His teachers saw potential. His parents saw a boy who didn't belong. He didn't notice the isolation. Emmet didn't miss having friends or attending social events. Those things were simply not part of his routine. He spent his free time exploring new mathematical theories or tinkering with computer code on an old desktop his uncle had given him. The clunky machine became his sanctuary, a world where logic reigned supreme, and no one judged him for his oddities. When Stanford University sent him a letter of acceptance with a full scholarship, his parents were thrilled. Emmet, however, showed no reaction. The idea of leaving his carefully curated routine felt overwhelming. He didn't care that Stanford was prestigious or that it was only an hour away. He couldn't see why he should go. It was his physics teacher, Mrs. Lang, who finally convinced him to visit the campus. "Think of it as a research opportunity," she told him. "You don't have to make a decision yet, but you should see it for yourself." Reluctantly, Emmet agreed. His parents, eager for him to show some enthusiasm, came along. The campus tour was uneventful for Emmet. He had already read about Stanford's buildings, its history, and even its dining hall menus. The guide's cheerful descriptions washed over him like white noise. He walked a few steps behind his group, glancing at the ground, until they reached the computer science department. Everything changed. The moment Emmet stepped into the lab, he was captivated. The hum of servers, the blinking LEDs, the walls lined with whiteboards covered in equations. It was like stepping into the pages of a novel he couldn't put down. The tour guide introduced him to a professor who was working on machine learning algorithms. Emmet interrupted to ask about the professor's methodology and the potential biases in his training data. The professor blinked, startled, then smiled. "Those are some sharp questions," he said. Emmet didn't notice the compliment. He was already focused on the answer. As they continued the tour, Emmet grew increasingly animated. He stopped to examine a student's code on a shared monitor, politely offering suggestions for improving efficiency. He lingered by a cluster of students discussing an experimental neural network. The world around him fell away as he immersed himself in the possibilities of the lab. For the first time, his parents saw a spark in him they didn't recognize. It wasn't rebellion or resistance. It was passion. By the end of the visit, Emmet's parents saw something they hadn't seen before: genuine excitement. For the first time, Emmet spoke passionately about what he wanted. "I need to be there," he told them. "There's so much I can learn." Stanford became Emmet's second home. He spent his days and nights in the computer science labs, diving deep into experimental algorithms and hardware design. He found a rhythm there that matched his own, a place where his intense focus and meticulous nature were not just accepted, but celebrated. While other students went to parties or joined clubs, Emmet stayed in the lab, driven by the endless possibilities of code. Professors took notice. Emmet's ability to solve problems others couldn't was uncanny. He created algorithms that improved image recognition and optimized data storage. His work was so advanced that researchers began consulting him as if he were a peer. Despite his brilliance, Emmet remained modest, oblivious to the admiration around him. He worked not for accolades, but for the pure joy of discovery. During his second year, Emmet joined a research project on quantum computing. It was a field filled with challenges and uncertainties, but Emmet thrived on the complexity. He spent hours poring over equations, testing theories, and debugging hardware prototypes. His contributions were so significant that his name appeared on a published paper. When his parents saw it, they framed a copy for their living room wall. Emmet, however, seemed indifferent to the recognition. He simply moved on to the next problem. By his senior year, Emmet had become a fixture in the computer science department. His name was whispered with a mix of awe and curiosity by undergraduates. "Have you met Emmet?" they'd ask. "He's always in the lab." Yet Emmet remained largely solitary, his social interactions limited to the necessary exchanges of research. He didn't mind. For the first time in his life, he felt he belonged. When graduation came, Emmet walked across the stage to polite applause, his name barely registering among the crowd. But in the computer science department, his absence was palpable. "The lab feels quiet without him," one professor remarked. Emmet had left a mark, not through grand gestures or social connections, but through the quiet, unrelenting power of his work. For Emmet, the world outside of Stanford was a puzzle waiting to be solved. He didn't dwell on the past or worry about the future. He carried with him the certainty that, in the realm of algorithms and equations, he had found his place, a world where his rhythm was no longer an anomaly, but a strength. And for the first time, Emmet felt at peace. You've just heard Emmet's story, but it's only one part of the world of the exciting techno-thriller Daemon Protocol by J.L. Spears. The novel is available in hardcover or paperback format, or as an audiobook or ebook wherever books are sold. Thanks for listening.